Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Drawing with T. Today is, I believe, one of the last, or possibly the last Christmas-styled episode, so if you've been sick of them, sorry, this is the last one, and if you've been enjoying them, sorry, this is the last one. So this is basically a custom card that a client of mine wanted me to do. I don't want to say too much about like who the card is for or what it's for. Just because I'm a little, I don't want to talk too much about client work in case that's an issue, but I just, what I will say, it's a custom card, it's just one, and it's intended for a specific person, so yeah, it's kind of a special card, it's a one-off, and, this is, a little bit of an unfortunate episode because, a lot of the footage didn't get recorded. I actually sketched 2 pages of designs, and most of the second page got corrupted, so you'll basically only be seeing this. I'm also trying something a little bit different in this episode. Again, I'm going to be combining everything that went into making this. So you're going to see the sketches, and then we're going to go into the, everything up to the final card, other than the lost footage here. So basically, I'm just kind of doing a very basic thing, just, drawing the person as a cartoon dressed up as Santa, but then I did some sort of beach scenes, and part of the idea that I had that got scrapped was that, the outside of the card would be a classic Christmas card, and then you'd open it up and the person would basically be, at a beach, because, well, I guess I will say, yeah, basically this person is getting a very special card because they're going to get a long break. So, I thought what represents a nice long break better than, going off to the beach after Christmas. And right up to here, we're about to hit the corruption, so I'll be switching over to show you guys the 2 pages, and then we're going to go into the digital world. So let me know if you like this style better. I can do this where I show you everything from start to finish. However, it's going to mean way fewer posts a week. So basically, you might, instead of getting, 3 or 4 a week, it might just be 1 or 2 a week. So keep that in mind. So here I am going into digital land. I did cut out the parts where I kind of opened the file and set it up as line art or whatever. So, or rather as ready to be lined. And here I am basically just digitally inking this, and it's a pretty straightforward process. I do everything in Photoshop. I'm not really sure if that's kind of getting a bit old school now. It seems like a lot of people, there's a lot of other programs out there. I know a lot of people are actually using their iPads now. I don't have anything fancy. I just have a Wacom Intuos 5. So all this rotation and stuff is a result of me having to rotate the canvas because I can't rotate the actual tablet or anything. It's not a screened tablet, so I kind of have to draw in one space and visually see it happening in another. So yeah, I don't even know if that needs to be explained. I don't know where most people are in terms of tech. I just seem to notice that a lot of people are moving on to other things, and doing the old Photoshop and Intuos tablet seems to be dying off. So, hoping to get a nice, some kind of screened tablet in the future. I do a lot of art, obviously, so it'd be a worthwhile investment. But getting the money for that is kind of the hard thing right now. Whether it's buying a new iPad Pro or an Intuos, neither of which is particularly cheap. But enough tech talk, I'm basically, just inking here, I guess. Well, I don't guess, I know. The brush that I'm using is, I believe, called the Pocket Brush, possibly the Pocket Brush 2, and it is by Kyle Webster, I believe, or Weber. I can never quite remember his name. He's probably pretty famous by now. He's the guy that's known for making all the Photoshop brushes. And you can get that brush in his massive mega pack, which he updates, and every time he updates, you can basically get more brushes for free. So that's great. Yeah, pretty basic, just outlining what's basically there. There were There are sometimes when I do art that I think I could have gone an extra mile or two. This is one of them. But you know, the client just wanted something quick, and I knew that they would be happy with something kind of basic. Not everybody wants you to go the full 9 yards, the full 10,000 miles to come up with something brand new and innovative. You know, a lot of times people just want some pretty art. So that's what I tried keeping in mind for this, because, you know, obviously when there's a budget, you want to get paid what you're worth, and you don't want to get paid less, and the client doesn't want to pay more. So it's trying to find that happy medium here. And I was quite happy with how this card turned out, even if it is just kind of basic. Now we're moving from ink to color. And for a good chunk of this, the colors might seem a little bit off, and that was because when I was working at this, I forgot that I had my laptop's night mode on, so everything looked different to me, and then when I realized I had it on and I turned it off, I basically kind of went back in and fiddled and changed all the colors. So yeah, basically how I flat fill, I just go to the ink layer and I select the areas that I want filled with a certain color. I expand the selection a bit, make a new layer, and just kind of fill it in. That way it allows me to just kind of isolate that layer and change the color. If, for example, you know, as it often happens, you know, you have to change a color, whether that's what the client wants or what you realize you need to do later on. Now, because this is a simpler piece, I don't do any shading here, so that also means that I want my flat colors to be very on point. Yes, that was the moment I think I realized night mode was on, that little thing that came up in the screen. Yeah, so here I am now going to be adjusting the colors, and since I'm not doing flat shading, the base colors I use are a little bit extra important. Because I'm also getting it printed, you'll see that I select my printing layer file, which will change the colors quite a bit, and that's just me figuring out what I need to change in the digital file to make it turn out how I want it to actually turn out, which is something I don't know if a lot of people realize. When you're dealing with digital, there's this whole other headache of making your art look weird so it turns out the way you want it to if it's actually going to be print. It's not really something you got to worry about when you're doing acrylic painting or whatever. Although, if you are doing acrylic paintings with the intent of printing them in mass, then it actually is, and then it's actually a little bit harder in some aspects. That's what makes Photoshop great, though. You can tweak things and stuff, you know, as you go. That's mainly why it was invented. So yeah, now that I've kind of settled on the flat colors for now, I'm moving on to working on the typeface, and I was going to make it very basic. But the layout of the actual figure kind of made me had to change where the words were going to go. Originally I was going to have Merry Christmas at the top, and then Patricia at the bottom, but since I had to move Merry Christmas down, I didn't plan for that, so, you know, how it sits on that little ruffle there is a bit odd. So I was trying to find ways of making the typeface pop and all this sort of stuff. And just making it look nice, because it turned out to eat up a lot more of the card than I anticipated. So I thought a nice gradient and an outline would be nice. And now I'm doing adjustments. I'm trying to figure out how I want it to look printed. And just kind of changing colors around and whatever. Like, do I want the mitts to be green, or do I want them to be brown? Is that going to matter so much? You know, should this be light? Should this be dark? That sort of thing. And then changing the color of the line art here, which is something I like to do just to soften up the work. And I'm trying to find a quick lazy man's way of doing it. If there's any time where I can just select one color and change the line art to that and move on, then I'm always happy. But it's rarely the case. But I don't really enjoy zooming in super in and changing, you know, the colors of the buttons and the colors of the greens so everything looks nice, but I think that's what I ultimately do here. If I don't stick with it, then at least, you know, I kind of tried it. Yeah, so here I am just kind of fine-tuning the colored inking on the various parts. Again, it's something I don't really like to do because my line work tends to be a little bit robust. I know there are some means and methods to very quickly turning very thin line art into, to match the colors. But when you have very thick line art and you fill it in the way that I do, like you fill in the character the way I do, it doesn't look right. It's hard to describe unless you've done it yourself. But the problem I have with filling it in like this is sometimes it's not obvious what color the line should be. And, when the boots meet the ruffles, what should be boot colored, what should be ruffle color. Here it was mostly straightforward, but this is just my least favorite part of it. Gently filling in line art that I've already drawn. But sometimes it's hard to figure out what needs to be what color when you're actively inking it. And, doing it on all the separate layers and stuff can take so much time. It's often, I find, for me, it's not worth it. And I believe that's it, maybe. Oh, yeah, forgot the cheeks. Gotta do the cheeks. But that's more or less it. I might go and change some of the other colors. Here I'm just checking to see if I want the face to be that color, if the eyes should be that, if the nose should be that, what should be what. Yeah, just fine-tuning things at this point, and that's kind of all that's left for the figure. And then I kind of decided that I didn't like the background as much as I had. Just kind of wasn't working, so we're going to see me kind of start adjusting that. First I put up some little bits of snow. Very easy, just, with a brush. And I really hate actually doing stuff like this because it just never quite looks right. I feel like I have the magic ability to perfectly, evenly space everything when I'm doing these sort of little scatter things, and it just never looks as good as when anybody else does it, and I don't know why. It's like I got the worst superpower ever. My superpower is I can put things evenly apart without meaning to. In fact, when I don't want to. Anyways, here I am just going back in, adjusting the words, like I said, because they're kind of prominent. I wanted to make them particularly nice as opposed to just handwriting some stuff or leaving it black or leaving it just solid yellow. I wanted to give it a bit of extra pop. I mean, it is a special card. Since I also didn't do much for the back or the insides, the back is basically just a modified version of the of this green and the snow falling, and then the inside is just kind of a plain green with some, some written words that don't need to be shared with the entire internet. So here I am basically just doing the last leg of it, which is just figuring out kind of a gradient and the color, just kind of trying to figure out the background. Oftentimes the background is the hardest thing for me to do, especially when it's abstract like this. It's very easy to, if somebody wants a verdant green forest, that's pretty easy to do. You need to draw trees and they need to be green. If you need a brown desert, that's easy to do. But what do you do when you've got anything? And it could be anything back there. Any sort of shape, any sort of color. Just trying to find something that is nice, but doesn't override the character. That doesn't get eaten by the character, or vice versa. And by eaten, I mean where where either the background is so bold it eats, quote unquote, eats up the character and you don't really see the character, or it's just kind of so wonky and weird that you notice it. It's a hard, strange game. But we're basically nearly done here. So I hope you guys had a good Christmas season, 2019. I look forward to seeing you guys in 2020. Let me know what you thought of this again, whether you liked the whole everything in one episode setup, or, if you kind of liked it broken down a bit more. Keep in mind, if I do more everything in one, then there'll be less episodes and stuff. And like, comment, and subscribe. I'll put an image of the, basically what the final card looked like at the end here. It'll be a bit lighter than it actually turned out to be, just because, I had to lighten it up for printing. But, see you guys in the next episode.